What a spectacular morning it is, and great to be up half an hour earlier. I hope nobody's late for the safari, and we are already hot on the trail of a male leopard, in all likelihood Tingana. Just decided to come into this area to stop and listen, because often listening can be one of the best methods of helping you to find game like lion and leopard. My name is Scott, and I'm teamed up with Jean-Dre on camera, Tara and Nikki on the final control room, and sadly Jamie's having a few issues with her vehicle, so they're trying to troubleshoot that, so you'll be stuck with me for the initial part of the drive. But let's carry on. We've been here for about 5 minutes and haven't heard anything. We have had tracks of, like I say, a male leopard, and because we did have reports of Tingana heading into this area yesterday afternoon, I'm guessing it could be him. That, coupled with the fact that at the moment he is the dominant male of this territory. And thanks very much to Chris Rogue, who sent through a report saying she actually heard a leopard calling on the Djuma dam cam at about 3 o'clock this morning. So that was in all likelihood him, and it's great that we've now got a kind of ballpark idea of how far we are behind him. His last tracks were heading straight up the Vuyatela access road before veering west into this general direction. It was still dark at that stage, and I was using my flashlight to follow the tracks. Not easy going, but we're going to move back into that area now and just double check. Maybe he's sleeping on a termite mound nearby, or possibly he's made a kill. Let's take a closer look straight up ahead of us here. Now this bird is going to provide us with some serious entertainment. Possibly not this morning, but definitely in the coming weeks and months. It's got a very diagnostic call that sounds like a champagne cork being ejected from the bottle. Oops. Now let me see, I'll just do it once to see if I can't try and urge it to give us one of these calls. Look at how it's creeping through the grass. Anyway, its call goes something like this. Watch closely. Looks like he might do it. Come on. He's doing it. I think he's gonna do it. He's definitely thinking about it. I haven't heard them doing it yet, so it's a little bit early on in their breeding season. But maybe we'll get lucky. He's definitely thinking about it. That was me again, obviously. When it starts pivoting its head from side to side, that's a good indicator that it's about to do the call. But usually they'll actually climb up onto termite mounds, get a point of elevation when doing these calls. And let's not force the issue, but mark my words, in the coming weeks we are going to get to see this bird performing its wonderful call, and we're also going to get to see its cousin, who's already started calling very loudly and very insistently, and that's the red-crested korhaan. This is the black-bellied bustard, both very similar looking birds. The black-bellied bustard has got this black stripe up its throat, as you can see now, whereas the korhaan lacks the black stripe all the way up the throat, and its call is very different. The morning progresses. And it's a cool, crisp morning, about 17 degrees Celsius, 62 degrees Fahrenheit, very gentle breeze blowing. And other than the clouds we're looking at now, there's not much up in the sky, maybe 2/8 cloud cover this morning. And I'm sure a lot of you are already appreciating being out this half an hour earlier. I certainly am. While to leave, we were all saying how it's a bit of an adventure now that we head out in the dark. To Genevieve in New York. Good to have you on board. Genevieve's interested to know what differences we could expect to see in both the nocturnal and diurnal animals by being out this half an hour earlier. And basically, Genevieve, we've just got a bigger chance of seeing any nocturnal animals still out and about, as well as simply just finding more animals active. Especially the predators are more likely to be active in the earlier hours of the morning, and as it progressively gets later, our chances will decrease drastically in terms of finding animals on the move. So it's definitely the right thing to be doing, I think, using our time most effectively. Although ideally we'd be out all day, every day, but that would require a team, I guess, 4 times the size as the current one, which is not feasible at the moment. But certainly something to work for and work towards. Just to keep you all in the loop, the tracks we had of this male leopard were about 1/4 of a mile up ahead of us, and they were heading in a north and westerly direction. They then veered off the one road towards this road that we're driving along now, but I would only expect to find his tracks about a couple of 100 meters ahead of us. So I'm just going to be checking very carefully. It's a strange time of the morning in terms of tracking, or a difficult time, because when I turn the vehicle lights on now, you can see it has very little effect on the road, therefore not casting enough lights onto the tracks to be able to see them. And because the sun isn't up yet, we also don't have any help from the sun. And in flat light, which is essentially what we're in now, it's incredibly tricky to spot tracks. So let's hope that we spot the leopard instead, lying up in one of these marula trees that we're driving through. It's a wonderful marula grove, this, and lots of comfortable branches for Tingana to be perched on, or to have whatever he may have been lucky enough to kill perched on. I'm going to take it slowly here and try my best to make sure we don't miss any tracks. So he was just off to our right when he veered off a road running parallel to us, and we should have his tracks popping out here somewhere. Hello to Gilly, all the way in Wisconsin. And Gilly would like to know if we see another cousin of both the Cory bustard and of the red-crested Korhan and the black-bellied bustard. And that bird is the Cory bustard, which, for those of you who don't know, because I've got the book open and ready, I may as well show it to you quickly. It's a massive bird, quite prehistoric looking, about 3 or 4 times the size of the individual we saw earlier, and it stands just over 1.5, or about 1.5 meters in height, so quite tall. And sadly, Gilly, we do not see them here very frequently. They prefer large open grasslands. But in the Kruger National Park, not far from here, around an area called Satara, there are many of these, as well as secretary birds. And they do have a wonderful call, don't they? That's one of Gilly's favorite calls, the call of the Corrie Bustard. But we will see them infrequently here in the Sabi Sands. What has this leopard done? So, good news is Jamie is up and running, and she would like to say good morning to all of you. See you a bit later.
Oh. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. There was a steenbok there about 2 seconds ago. It is now dashed away into the bushes. It sat there, it was lying tucked away in the grass for a good 2 minutes before vanishing away. You might have seen the flash of it disappearing. Anyway, whilst Scott tracks leopards, I'm on my way to Sydney's Dam, just on the other side of the Buffelshoek boundary. I want to see if I can follow up on those Salala pride from yesterday afternoon, see if we can figure out where they went, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that they managed to get a meal last night, because they were looking quite thin and quite hungry. And for those of you who might have missed yesterday's sunset safari, we found the Salalas just in the corner by Gari Gate. One member short, unfortunately. It seems as though that young male has definitely disappeared, most likely been killed, and likely by the Birminghams. I'm going to go and see if we can locate the rest of the pride. Fortunately, our steenbok didn't want to be viewed. And we're out half an hour earlier, which always comes with a sense of serious excitement. I don't know, Scott and I share the same feeling. That there's nothing like being out in the morning as early as possible, just for the first rays of light, to try and see what's out there. There's a sense of expectation that you don't get at any other time of the day. Just wondering what sagas have unfolded during the night and what animals are making their way back home after an evening of prowling. I know Scott's on the trail of a male leopard, probably Timbana. I want to find out what happened to those lions last night. There was a big herd, there were actually 2 big herds, 2 big herds of buffalo on Arathusa. One set moved west away from the Arathusa Dam last night. The other set we think moved east towards Djuma and onto Djuma, which bodes very well for us, because if they were sitting at Red Dam, you guys have seen those enormous buffalo herds that we get, and you've also seen the puddle that is left of Red Dam. So it's unlikely that they were going to get enough water from there, which is why I'm heading across to Sydney's now. I want to find out if that's where they were heading. And we raced back yesterday after a little bit of time spent with Shadow. We raced back across to see if we could catch up with the Salalas, but unfortunately arrived just a little bit too late, and they'd moved off. Luckily, because they are in the corner, we should be able to find their tracks pretty easily. Either coming into Buffelshoek or Simabili, or, fingers crossed, sticking around somewhere on Djuma. I know Scott would have been updating you on the Birmingham boys' movements from last night, and I'm sure we're all hoping that this time the Salalas managed to avoid them. It was the male with the injured hip. When we first saw him a couple of weeks ago when I was with Brian, he had a big hole in the dent of his sort of buttocks area around his tail, and he was definitely moving a lot slower than the others. Quite a serious pronounced limp, and I think when it came down to a confrontation, he was the one that just couldn't get away. I head across to find out what happened at Sydney's dam. Scott has found a very large pachyderm to show you, not a leopard, but a pachyderm. So let's head across to him for now, and I'll be back with you.
What a beautiful morning it is. The sun's just poked up over the bank of clouds to the east, and that was as we stumbled across this elephant bull. He seems to be alone, which is not strange, and he seems very, very relaxed with us and enjoying nibbling on this thorny acacia tree. The birds are beginning to call and the bush is coming alive. Still no sign of the leopard we're looking for, but I'm hoping that's going to change. Just going to creep forward ever so slightly. Try and get you into a bit of a gap. It's incredible how easily they break these branches with their trunks. If we were to try and do that with our hands, it would be not nearly as effective. For a number of reasons, our hands aren't as nearly as tough and as thick-skinned as the trunk, and aren't quite as strong as the elephants. And it's just sampling other little plants now alongside the acacia, mixing up its diet. And what it did there was just kind of brush the roots of the plant that it had just plucked out against its trunk, thus ridding it of any sandy particles. Now it's using its tusk to help in stripping all the leaves off this tree. This is going to be awesome. Watch how all the leaves collect in its trunk. And it's also flattening the thorns by doing that. So clever technique. And what it's probably going to do is break this branch now with all the thorns that have been flattened in one direction. Again, just using its tusk to help break the branch, and now it can chew on that branch without worrying about being spiked in the palate or in the lips. Although it still seems like one or two must surely be poking it in the mouth. Incredible. They are such calming animals to watch, especially when they're in a mood like this. Here it goes, flattening the thorns again. It's going to be losing a little bit of leaf matter as it does that, but interestingly enough, sometimes they'll actually feed on the leaves that collect in their trunk when performing the thorn flattening technique. What I love about watching elephants throughout the year is that they will continually feed on different plants and find the kind of flavor of the month. This morning it's the flaky bark acacia which seems to be the tastiest. It's now sampling a bush willow. Will it have any to eat? Thinking about it. Yeah, it's committed. Now generally the trees with the big leaves without the thorns aren't the most nutritious and aren't fed on as much as the thorny trees, which have got this built-in defense mechanism to try and prevent herbivores from feeding on them. But quite clearly, this bush willow has got some minerals or nutrients that the thorn trees don't have. And Genre is doing some incredible camera work. Look at all of the hairs on its trunk there, and it's very close to us now, very, very close. To the point where it almost become difficult for Genre to film. He's not going to be able to zoom out much more than this. And isn't it incredible how close we can be to these animals without affecting them? It's completely comfortable with us, and what a treat, what a great way to start the safari. It's decided to come right up to us and enjoy another one of these flaky bark acacia trees. It's going to be a good opportunity again for Genre to maybe at least try and get you close to, or closer than you've ever been to an elephant before. And at this rate we might even be able to see straight down its mouth, who knows. Ah, this is awesome. And Angie in Ohio has just made a comment that shame this poor elephants must have a hard time processing all these thorns that would prickle it, kind of prickle its insides all the way down to its stomach. And you're right, Angie, you wonder how it's not more painful than it is, and how they manage to go ahead with it. But I guess they're a lot tougher than us in many regards, and its teeth, which are very large slabs, essentially like our molars, do an incredible job of grinding and flattening a lot of the vegetation that goes into their mouth. So those massive plate-like teeth, I'm sure, are going to break down those thorns to a point where it's easy to swallow. Well, I think that little tree was born this year. It's not very big at all, but that's the elephant's role. If there was no elephants in this area, it would be a very thick forest, which would mean a lot of the animals that do live here wouldn't have a suitable habitat to live in. So it's a necessary destruction, and they feed on huge amounts of vegetation every day. A bull of this size could eat as much as 200 kilograms, 400 pounds of vegetable matter every single day. And if it wasn't for all these elephants, you could imagine how different Africa would be. Okay, now I'm just going to try and reposition again. That was absolutely wonderful. I mean, you don't get much better than that. Look at how close he was. I mean, that must have been maybe 1.5 meters away from us. I'm just going to swivel around onto the other side of him. Come on, Jiga. There we go. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. There's good news. There looks to be a bigger, even older bull off to our right there. So let's head across to that one and have a look what he's up to. And as I said, when we first came across this alley, it's not uncommon for them to move alone. Equally, it's not uncommon for them, hello boy, to move in small bachelor herds. Having a Bit of a nightmare here, not picking the right pathways to drive along. And this bull is kind of got a little bit agitated with us, nothing serious at all. Oh, what's going to happen here? Is he going to break this branch for us? Yep. Incredible power. And bachelor herds are usually made up of, not always, but usually made up of a combination of young bulls and old bulls. And they come and go, they don't have to stay together. It's not as tight a bond as a coalition of male lions. And usually, whenever any of those bulls within the bachelor herd come into muster, they'll usually separate from the bachelor herd and go off on a rampage looking for ladies. We've got a bit of a roadblock at the moment. We can't get to the elephant, which is just off behind this individual. It's probably going to pop into frame as this elephant takes 1 or 2 steps forward. But we're in no rush. We'll just stay here for the time being until we get a gap, and then go and check out the other one. Well, one thing I love about Safari Live is that people are enjoying the show from around the world in different time zones. Barbara's busy eating her dinner and loving the fact that while she eats dinner, she's enjoying watching this elephant eat its breakfast. I think we might be able to squeeze behind this individual now and go and check out the other one. Should I? I was chatting a little bit about the dentition of the elephants, and Sean and Secunda would like to know a little bit more about that and how many teeth will an elephant have in their lifetime. Well, Sean, they've got 2 sets of tusks. The first set of tusks, referred to as milk tusks, are tiny and are barely visible before they fall out, and then the second set of tusks start growing. And in terms of their teeth, you get 6 sets of teeth that will grow in an elephant's lifetime. And what happens is they grow kind of like they're on a railway track, and each tooth comes in from the rear to replace the other tooth that's worn down in front. And once those 6 sets of teeth have all been used, then that will be generally the start of the demise of that elephant, because obviously without teeth it's difficult to process all this hard vegetation. Let's take a close look at this bull. He's a serious character with very raggedy ears, easy to distinguish from other elephants. And I'm wondering if this isn't the elephant bull that Jamie wasn't with the other day. I can already see that his back right leg, there seems to be something wrong there. And I know Jamie was chatting about an elephant bull that had a kind of dislocated hip, it appeared like. So I'm not sure if any of you were on safari with Jamie when that happened, and you can confirm that this is in fact the same bull. I'm guessing it is. I haven't seen him walk yet, but just by the way he's standing, he's very delicately trying to break the branches again. This is a very thorny tree called the buffalo thorn, with hooked thorns, straight thorns, and requires some delicate maneuvering of the trunk to get that into the mouth and onto those big plate-like teeth. The Latin name Loxodonta africana also has a relation to its teeth. Loxodonta means angled tooth. And they've got very big ridges on their molars that help to grind up. Oh yeah, shame. This is definitely the elephant with the hip problem. As he moved there ever so slightly, I noticed quite clearly that he has got a problem with that right leg. Nothing too serious though, because he's still in good condition. It just means it's probably a little bit more difficult for him to move than other elephants, but thankfully he's not going to need to run away from predators, and highly unlikely that any predator is big enough to attack a bull of this size, even a very large pride of lions. What it may have an impact on is mating. I don't think he's going to be able to compete with males and or even be able to mount a female if he was successful in a battle over ladies. So maybe he's going to have a bit of a lonely life regarding the ladies, but at least he's got some male companions, one not too far behind us. I'm also interested to know if there were any other elephants around when Jamie was viewing this individual, or if it's just the two of them. But it sounds like it was just him and his companion that we're with now that are still together. Now I wonder if the state of his ears is also from the same event that's caused him this hip injury. Those are incredibly ragged ears, and I'm not sure exactly what could have caused that. Branches running through the bush could have torn. Those ears, or who knows. You can see how he's also resting that back right foot up, and if we just wait a moment or two, we may see it try and move forward again, and then you'll notice it kind of keeps that leg dead straight as he moves and really favors it. Well, these two boys are really on the go slow. Well, thanks Marilyn, Gary and Georgianne, as well as a lot of other viewers. Yeah, watch his leg, watch his leg. You see how interesting this is. Sorry though, but thank you very much for all of those updates confirming that this is in fact the elephant that you saw with Jamie the other day. Well, is he going to give us a bit of action here, or is he just smelling that plant? I just saw him hold his trunk back and face us, and wasn't sure if it was us that got him interested or if it was the tasty tree. And I don't think it's us. I think it's the tasty vegetation around us that he's smelling and sampling the air with his trunk before coming in and breaking off the branches again. Aren't we so lucky to have these elephants coming right up to us, so relaxed? And that's so important to remember. These animals in many parts of Africa are persecuted by humans for their ivory, and because of that they certainly don't act or treat humans the same way in those areas. So very unfortunate, and let's take a closer look and enjoy being so close to this African giant. I really love these raggedy ears of his. He's also got perfect ivory. And it looks like he's going to come right past us here. Hello, boy. How are you doing? You are so close to us. How cool is this? Can you believe it? Hello, boy. What can you smell? I'm so tempted to put my hand out to you, but I'm not going to. Hey. Hey, boy. That was incredible. I think that's probably one of the most awesome sightings I've ever had of an elephant being close to me. Whew. I mean, his trunk must have been about that far away, just testing the wind, and I was wanting to just put my hand out just to like kind of do a little handshake, trunk shake, but it's not advisable to ever push the envelope and try and take things that far, and rather just sit and keep still and let the animals decide how far they would like to take it. But that was really special. I hope you all enjoyed that. I certainly did. Jean-Andre's got a big smile on his face. So does Jerry, who's joining us again on this morning safari. Jerry, how's your heart rate? Is it okay? Thumbs up. So Jerry's in one piece. I think that is definitely the closest Jerry's been to an elephant before. What an absolute fortune to be able to experience that. Now don't be alarmed, you can see he has changed appearance ever so slightly, but that's all a bit self-explanatory. He also had a little toilet break just after he walked past us, and the wind is blowing perfectly in our direction, and it smells actually quite sweet and refreshing, almost like an African bran muffin, you could say. Unbaked though, just the raw materials. Quite a nice smell. It's not nearly anything as horrid as lion dung. A fresh elephant dropping is actually quite sweet smelling. And there's the other bull, who looks slightly younger to me, although maybe I'm wrong. He's also excited about something, not sure what, but at least they are both in sync, and maybe they've infrasonically communicated with or heard a breeding herd nearby, and that thought's aroused them, or hard to say, but clearly they're happy about something. Maybe it's just the wonderful breakfast they're enjoying. I was discussing how important elephants' destructive eating behavior is, and Gigi in the Prince Edward Islands would like to know if their destruction is permanent and whether it's a good or a bad thing. Now Gigi, their destructive eating behavior certainly is permanent for the trees that they do pluck out and kill, but it requires permanent upkeep. And I was just mentioning a few moments ago, without elephants in Africa we would have a completely different ecosystem, and one that is not suitable for all the animals of Africa. So their feeding is necessary in order to create microhabitats, to break down. Every time they push down a tree, they're creating a small microbiome. And those little biomes are going to be nurseries for small plants to grow in, and also safe havens for little animals. So even though they do cause a lot of destruction, it's a necessary destruction, and I guess it's semi-permanent, you could say, permanent for any plants that they kill there and then, but it requires upkeep. And just outside this reserve, on the other side of the fence, there's incredibly thick, impenetrable woodland, where the local people who like to graze their cattle have a hard time because the vegetation's so thick there's no space for the grass to grow, whereas if elephants were still living there, it would create an environment similar to this, one that buffalo can walk through, no different to a cow, and feed on the grass. That's an example of how without elephants the habitat doesn't become suitable for certain animals, especially the feeders of grass. From this angle you can see his back right hip sticking out quite clearly. It also looks to be a lot lower than it should be, as it's dislocated and obviously dropped down. Just going to get on the radio quickly and update Aubrey. He's found Tingana's leopard, this male leopard tracks, and I just want to update him where I lost them. Aubrey, I lost those tracks on Voyatela Access. It looked like they headed west just before Galago shortcuts. Paul, Valerie, Donna, and a whole load more of you. Aren't we so lucky? And we certainly did get spoiled with that elephant sighting. I'm so glad you guys appreciated it, because that doesn't happen often, and it could be many moons before that kind of an interaction happens again. One or two of you said it was the equivalent of an elephant high five. I'd almost take it one step further, and it felt like that elephant was hugging us. It was incredible the way its little trunk was moving around so close to us. I wonder what was going through its head. That would be nice to know, but I think that would be greedy. I don't think we could want anything more from this morning's safari after such a quality sighting like that. Well, we're moving into some thick bush. I'm not sure what we're going to do next. Hello again to Brian in Philadelphia, and very happy to see you sending through as many questions as you are. Brian is one of the viewers who learnt about Safari Live in November last year, and after just 6 months of being introduced to this concept, he decided to come out on safari. So we've actually met him, and while he was out here I asked him, does he ever send through questions? And he said no, he's never sent through one. So we begged and pleaded for him to change, and slowly he's sending through more questions. And hope all is well in Philadelphia, Brian. Brian's interested to know the rips and tears in that elephant's ear. How much of an effect will it have on his ability to thermoregulate? It's a good question, Brian, and for those of you who don't know, elephants have the ability to pump liters and liters of blood through those very large ears, and that's what keeps them cool during the heat of the African day. The large ears that they have aren't to help receive audio signals, they aren't cup-shaped like a satellite, so they're entirely for thermoregulation. And I don't think that those tears are going to have too much of an effect, Brian, because they're on the kind of terminal edges of the ears, and most of the veins will be growing or spreading through the initial parts of the ear, not the periphery. So I don't think it's going to have a huge effect, but it will certainly have an effect to a degree. He's lost a little bit of the surface area, and surface area helps drastically with cooling. And to give you an idea of how much surface area those ears make up, it's 20% of the elephant's body, or surface area, is made up by the ears, which is a fact that's hard to believe, but I guess what we need to remember is that they're double-sided and very large. So Jamie's been out searching for any sign of the Solana pride, and I'm sure a lot of you will be interested to know on how she's getting along, as well as if there has been any sign of those lions yet. We're going to keep slowly moving through this area. Sadly, the elephants did move off into some impenetrably thick vegetation, and let's go and see what else we can find. But over to Jamie, and we will keep snooping around this area and hopefully find something for you shortly.
Sounds like Scott had the most amazing elephant encounter. What a special moment to spend with quite a character that we've got to know over the last 2 days. I have been looking for the Solana pride. I headed up to Buffelshoek. It looks as though they disappeared into that corner around Sydney's Dam and up into Buffelshoek. I did catch 1 or 2 tracks coming through, and I think that's where they've headed off. So I've returned. I've just heard an update from Aubrey right now on the radio to say that he heard impala alarm calling right close to Inge's house, so close to quarantine. Done a big loop, and I'm heading back there now to see if we can figure out what's been shouting. And here comes Aubrey himself.
How are you?
Good, and you? No sign of why those impala were...
Yeah, no sign, but I hope it must be it was a leopard. So.
coming through into
the effects coming from stuff with us.
Yeah. And the machine John was calling in the drainage line as well.
Where are you coming from? This side?
From the side, yeah, no sign of the tracks there. Okay. But I'll check, I'll go around this side. Okay. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Coordinating our search efforts. I know that Scott has been tracking this male. We started tracking this male this morning. Could be him. Could also be another leopard. It could well be Karula returning to Djuma. She was on Torchwood last night. Let's check very carefully in this drainage line. Here we go, some Nyala in high spirits. Now those are in particular very good alarm systems. Nyala are very, very alert to the presence of anything. A couple of young males and 1 female. Not only are the impala alarm calling, but it sounds as though Zola and Kara are alarm calling as well. I can hear dogs barking. And I think it might be time to just head across. I think at the moment, because the den, the hyena den, is so close to the lodge, I think that's quite often what's setting them off. Nyala look perfectly relaxed as they move through. Hello, boy. peaceful sounding morning. I'm just sitting quietly for the moment to listen for any other alarm calls. Okay, I think our Nyala is going to disappear into this drainage line. And I want to just do a quick loop around Inge's house, see if we can find any sign of what the impala was shouting at. As I said, the Salalas have headed across, it looks like they've headed across into Buffelshoek. I can't find their tracks from where they would have been. Alright, bear with me a moment. Nope. Just my imagination playing tricks on me in terms of tracks. Sometimes you get impala tracks on top of each other that end up looking like toes. Which then transforms, especially when you're looking for a leopard, immediately transforms itself into a paw in your brain. Having spoken about the Salalas, there's lots and lots of viewers out there, including Chris, Lynn, Diane, Natasha, who are all wondering if I have an update on that young male from the Salala Pride. I don't. As far as I know, he's still missing, and the fact that he's been missing for 3 days now, I have to be honest, and I don't want to think this, I want to think best case scenario. I would say there's maybe a 10% chance at the most that he's still alive somewhere, wandering around Arathusa trying to relocate his pride. I just think he got really unlucky, particularly because he was injured, he was limping, and the Birmingham boys are still on their testosterone high. It was probably them, unlikely to have been any other males. They're still on their testosterone high. They know that they're not going to have an opportunity to mate with those females just yet, and they probably went after him. There were tracks all over Arathusa that morning. I'm not sure if you were watching or not, but it was about 3 days ago where the Birmingham boys, we could hear them calling, and then they somehow managed to duck and escape us and head around to Torchwood, to the south of our boundary. But they were calling in a way that's very common to see in male lions after they've had a fight with something. And I honestly think they caught up with the Salalas on Arathusa, and that young male could not get away. I'm hoping I'm wrong. It's lost somewhere for now. But either way, the situation doesn't look good for that young male. I completely share Angie in Ohio's views. Angie, I agree. I'm also rooting for the Salalas. I feel like, in a way, they've actually had the worst deal of any of the prides in this whole takeover issue. They ran from the Matimbas, caused them trouble, so they ran away from the Matimbas straight into the waiting clutches of the Birmingham boys. They've just been so unlucky, and those males are at exactly the wrong age for this entire process to have played out. They're young, they're still far from independence, but they are males, and it's just put them so much higher up on the risk scale. And unfortunately, with that comes the risk posed to the females as well, because if they fight to protect them, as we think happened with that Nkuhuma lioness, then there's a chance that it's going to end badly for them, and I think it already has. But we'll keep fingers crossed, because lions are consummate survivors, and that female that's leading them, the female without the tail, she is incredibly experienced. She knows what she's doing. She's not a young lioness, and this is probably not the first pride takeover she's lived through. hopefully she'll be able to keep the rest of them safe. And it does pretty much all rest on her shoulders. The elephants have been doing some landscaping. And I know that Scott is trying to get hold of me at the moment, but there's a conversation happening just right now. Aubrey and squeezing through. Now, just excuse Tebs for one moment. He might have to, in a moment, wipe the screen. We're collecting, actually, that spiderweb's attached to me too. So the spiders, as we drive through, they've all made their webs across the road during the night, where they bundle up their silk and their, what are they called? Their feet, but I'm not looking for feet, I'm looking for another word. Anyway, they bundle the silk up in their feet and then they throw it into the air. It catches in the wind and blows across and attaches to an anchor point. And then we come around the next morning and drive through it and collect them. I used to collect quite a few spiderwebs. You always do when you're walking, especially in midsummer, which is why you should always walk with somebody taller in front of you. They collect them for you. That's been my system. Scott. Sorry, just getting hold of Scott. To see alrighty, just planning our routes for the morning so that we divide labor properly. I want to go and check Ingwe Alley. I was saying that behind somebody who's talking to you, the spider webs for you. That being said, I don't really have a problem with spider webs. My little brother, on the other hand, not his favorite thing, let's put it that way. There have been some squeals in the past in relation to spider webs attaching themselves to him. And I know I've told this story before, but one of my favorite spider encounter moments was with a group that I was taking a drive with. And we were in one of the 3 safari vehicles that you often 3-row seats. Yes, levitate from the front row to the back row without touching the middle row in absolute terror. I've never seen somebody run sitting down before, but she ran sitting down. It was incredible. Her legs and arms were moving frantically. And that, of course, was in response to a golden orb-web spider. It's a really big spider. It can be up to that big. Black and white and red and really scary looking. Pretty much complete harmless. They might give you a nip if you irritate them, but they, for the most part, are incredibly placid. They've got no venom, even if they look incredibly dangerous. Unfortunately, my signal's breaking up. Let's head across to Scott for now. I'll be back with you in the future, hopefully with our leopard in tow.
So, sadly, Jamie's signal is not treating her very well this morning. So, hopefully that improves. We have literally just come on to Arathusa and I'm about to get an update on the radio as to what's going on here. So give me a second or two, please. Good morning, Ryan. Any updates? I'm just crossing in a Red Dam Road. Go ahead. Okay, copy. Thanks very much. Confirm, is it impossible for the Birminghams or Sonata? Copy, thanks. No updates from our side, but the Birminghams will are sitting northwest towards kind of Djuma. Okay, so apologies for that, everyone. I actually forgot that you were with me for a moment. Just processing information there from Sean and Ryan, and they have found tracks of the Matimba males crossing into Sibambili, which is a property where we cannot go, between Arathusa and the northern fence line. It's a little thin property, so that's not looking promising to see them, but that's not a problem at all because there's lots of other animals out here, and we'll maybe just do a little loop through Arathusa and see if we can't find any sign of maybe shadow. Or anything else of interest as the morning progresses. Interestingly, the beautiful cloud cover that we enjoyed this morning has dissipated to absolutely nothing, and Derek is just asking if we have any local myths on the cloud formations and the effect that they may have on your day. In Derek's home, the saying goes, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. So that's interesting, but I don't personally know of any local cloud myths. That's not to say that there aren't some, and there probably are, but I am none the wiser in that regard. Thanks for sharing the local myth from your area, Derek. Still on the topic of clouds, Kathy in Florida would like to know, what will the animals do, especially the lions, when it's rainy? And will they seek shelter? Or will they just kind of lie out in the open? And I guess it depends on how strong the rain is. But typically, even under a bush, you're not going to escape the water entirely, and it's always you're always gonna get wet out here. This is gonna be beautiful. There's a herd of Inyala is getting ready, or they possibly have already finished taking a drink in this drying little water hole. All different shapes and sizes, a big male, adult females with the youngsters from this time last year, one young male and one young female. Beautiful. What's interesting is you can distinguish between, it's actually two young males. You can distinguish between males and females. The males will have the white chevron between the eyes, so even the young males, who are the same caramel brown color as their mothers, The mothers will lack that white chevron between the eyes, and the males will have them. Oh, I've just heard a Deirdre's cuckoo. And I know a lot of you are hoping to add that to your birds list. So, we're about to go on a cuckoo hunt. Just want to stop for a second and try and work out where exactly it is calling from. And I know Gerda was missing the Deirdre's cuckoo from her list, so I hope you're watching, Gerda, because we could well find this bird if it continues to call. What a beautiful scene this is, and Jandre is doing a great job on camera. There's the cuckoo again. And again. Just a question through from Mary in Pennsylvania, and she's wondering, what is the bird that makes a call similar to bed springs squeaking? And it's a frequently heard call. Mary, it will be Franklin that make that call. So I'm not sure exactly which one, but it's the Franklin, possibly the Natal Franklin or the crested Franklin. They all have a fairly similar kind of call, which is quite similar to that of rusty bread springs squeaking. And I'm sure if you just double check the calls of either the crested Franklin or the Natal Franklin or the red crested spurfowl, or sorry, the Swainson spurfowl, I've just made up its own name there, the Swainson spurfowl, you will be able to double check that. Great. Well, just a few days ago we were viewing the Salala Pride at the same waterhole where the Inyala were. Now something very different. Now, there's a tree up ahead of us where a few days ago we saw two African scops owl. I'm trying to work out if it is their home on a daily basis or if it's somewhere in this area. I'm fairly convinced it's somewhere in this area because just a couple of days ago I came back to double check here and we did see an African scops owl fly out of a tree nearby. So their home could be a summon. It would be incredible if we found out exactly where they were nesting. So let's take a closer look here. Maybe we'll get lucky. I think we're in luck. We are. It's not going to be a great view, but let's just see what happens here. Sitting up there. Oh, just going to stop here. It's sitting so close to us in the tree. We aren't going to be able to see its head from here though. Look, you can see its incredibly well camouflaged feathers blowing in the wind. So this tree they love to sit in almost on a daily basis as far as we're aware. And there could be a cavity in a tree nearby where the other owl, its partner, is busy incubating eggs. Now I would love to get you a view of its eyes, but I also don't want to chase it away from its perch here. They're typically nocturnal, so by flushing it in the daylight hours, we may make its presence known to all the other little birds in this area who may pester it throughout the day, whereas here where it is camouflaged, it's getting a peaceful morning without being harassed. So I'm inclined to actually not try and get into a different position. If we zoom out and just have a look around you, we don't have many places to go. It's a thick area with a riverbed down to our right and lots of thick vegetation down to our left, so we're just going to rather slowly get this owl used to us, and hopefully next time we arrive here it's going to be relaxed with us and have its head out in the open. But by us scaring it, we're going to rush you over onto Jamie's vehicle. She's having some fun over there, so see you later.
Oh, you're so cross. Oh, you naughty. Yes, you naughty. Hello, little one. That was absolutely adorable. Listen, mister. Okay, alright. Okay, Mom. I'm not doing anything. Your baby started it. Your baby started it. It wasn't me, I promise. That was such a perfect example of discipline. Sorry, I can't move the car at the moment. That was incredible. That was not Mommy coming to say, stop playing with my baby. That was Mommy coming up to baby to say, stop taunting the car. We had dust flying. That baby came within probably 50 centimeters of the car. Alright, guys. Here we go. Calm down. Wow. Little one, you naughty. That can only be a male. Yeah, it's a male calf. I mean, older sibling as well. Perfect example of an all helper. So lots of help coming from different... Oh, baby's coming back. Sorry, Tibbs. Let's just see if this baby's going to do the same thing. I know it's straight into the sun. Little one, it's really okay. I know you want to play, but I'm maybe not the toy to play with. About 2 years old and discovering how to be cheeky. I think that's probably the most enthusiastic charge I've ever had from an elephant that age. And look how protective this older sibling is being. That's not the mother, but coming to stand between us and the threat, or between the baby and the threat. Sure. Interesting behavior. They really are. They are phenomenally complex animals. The oldest sibling is coming through now on your screen. She's a female and she's practicing her mothering skills. She's probably the older sister, but it could be that she's an older cousin, and she's practicing being a mom and looking after babies. This is a huge herd. We're surrounded by probably about 20 to 30 elephants. Epic feeling. And just about 2 seconds ago, before Teb spotted them, if I'm honest, I stopped to pick up a piece of magic guari bush in the hope that it would both fight off gremlins and bring us beautiful sightings. And it's serving to do the job very, very well. I'm so impressed with that baby's courage. That was very impressive. Quite the little showman. Dust flying, I've got dust up my nose, I've got dust in my eyes. And the cows are feeding very peacefully. Sandra. is saying that I must have had siblings because I was blaming the baby. Yep, I did. I had a younger brother. I know all about what those taunting moments are like when they're young. Very familiar. And with an 8 years age difference, you can just imagine. We're very close now, but we certainly had our moments. There is a tiny, tiny, tiny little weenie one at the back. I'm hoping is going to come out into the open if we sit tight. But yes, I definitely had a younger sibling. Oh, there's nothing better than a cheeky baby. Hello guys. There's a nice big male who's moving through as well. And some young boys having a bit of a sparring and a playful session in front of us. We've had a lot of babies coming through. You've seen lots and lots of new elephant babies, or very, very young ones anyway. And Charlotte, who's watching us from Port Elizabeth in South Africa, Charlotte wants to know if they mate and give birth at a specific time of year. And the answer is no, they don't really, although there is a bit of a peak in terms of giving birth in the rainy season. Alright, I'm trying to have eyes in the corner of my head here and keep an eye on all the ellies around me. But Charlotte, as far as I know, there's a slight peak for the rainy season, which might be why we're seeing a couple of young calves now, which mean that there will be a peak in mating 2 years prior to that, around the rainy season same time, because they gestate for essentially 2 years. And now, why are you shaking your head at me? Also a boy, coming to cause trouble. I'm just sitting here, dude. I'm not doing anything. You're gonna get me into trouble, you lot. Yeah. You're gonna come and cause trouble, and then your mom's gonna come and investigate. You can see that backwards and forwards rocking, trunk twisting kind of aimlessly. And that's telling us that this little boy doesn't really know what to do. He's thinking about coming to run towards us, but he's got a little bit more fear than that calf did. Come on, dude. The baby was braver than you are. It's alright, boy. I'm going to spar with brother instead, or cousin probably. Two very similar sized boys. Although I think the one on the right is a little bit stronger. Oh, here comes our little bubba. Sure, that's close. Hello, little one. Oh, you're so furry. Okay. Racing across the road. I'm pretty sure we've seen that little boy before. Right next to mom. Look how easily it fits under mom's stomach. That's still a very young calf. We are absolutely surrounded by them with a perfect view of the little baby in front. Look at the pale spots still around the ears and the face. Oh, bye. Oh, sorry, it's a little girl. Bye-bye, girl. I love spending time with elephants. They really are just the best. There's nothing like the feeling, and they're all very relaxed. I mean, apart from the baby boy who was coming to cause trouble, which they do, they're all incredibly relaxed. Let this one come through in front of me. And oh, we do know this herd. I thought we did. Here's our backwards tusk-facing friend. Backwards facing tusk friend. I'm not quite sure which one it is. Here, she's coming up to our right. She's going to come in front of us. We know this herd. So we do know that little baby. We've seen it sleeping before. There she is. Oh, that tusk is phenomenal. Now, I was chuckling a little bit at the babies shaking their heads, and that's because I'm very much familiar with elephant behavior, and I know how to read what's happening within a herd. Now, that situation could have gone slightly differently. I was watching Mom the whole time really carefully out of the corner of my eye as the baby was playing in front of us, and she knew we were there. She was watching what her baby was doing, and she was very relaxed about it. So when she came forward and did her rumble in response to her baby's provocation, I knew that she was disciplining him and not us. That being said, it's very important to remember, especially if you're coming to visit Kruger and you're driving yourself, it's important to remember that there are warning signs from elephants. Now, Sean and Secunda, you were wanting to know what signs, or wanting me to share what signs I would look for if an elephant was committed to a charge. They're all walking straight into the sun, but I will get us a nice visual again in a moment. So if an elephant is committed to charging a vehicle, there's a couple of things to look for. First of all, most of the time it's come from provocation itself, so people being too much in their space, keeping their car engines on, possibly revving. There's been a lot of bad behavior, not bad behavior, ignorant behavior within the Kruger National Park that's led to the elephants there being provoked. Hey, mister! Oi! You behave! The reason I'm raising my voice to him is because he's a bull and he's being naughty. That tail up, you see how he walked across the road with his head up, his tail up? And I've got my hat up because sometimes that's quite a useful device in terms of just distracting them. But he's moved on, nothing too serious, but again, bulls you respond to differently. Cows are showing aggression because they are protective of their herds. Bulls often show that kind of, what's the word? Aggression is maybe too strong a word. Spirit? It's maybe a little bit cliched, but they show that uppityness when they come towards you because they're trying to push their weight around. So you respond differently to cows and to bulls. Bulls you need to meet with slightly more firmness. The cows need to be, up until right at the last minute, need to be met with a calm approach so that you don't make yourself any more of a threat than you already are. But to get to back to Sean's question, because this is important, especially if any of you guys are planning on visiting Kruger, an elephant committing a charge, a lot of the time they are going to give you warning signs first. That head shake, the tail's up in the air, sometimes they're very vocal about it, moving a couple of steps towards you and then dropping their head and swinging their trunks so that it makes a slapping sound with their ears. Those are signs that they are not comfortable with you. If you're really close, you want to sit nice and still, and as soon as they back off, then you want to back off, and if they keep coming, then you stop and then you back off. My guari bush was bringing me luck in terms